I'm here at the scene of the crime spree, right behind me.
Vice Mayor Strange, you'll address her properly.
You can kiss my foot.
Mr. Rickard, you're out of order.
FBI, we are asking you to investigate this council. Please look into this council, how they award contracts, the bid process, how they use their positions to benefit their friends and themselves, how they use their positions to attack residents and critics and neighbors and business competition. FBI, will you please look into this?
And I welcome the FBI here. If you notice, Mr. Thompson, with his plea for the FBI and his watchdog group, this city runs the cleanest in this whole county. I guarantee
He was served a federal subpoena this morning.
We did receive a subpoena this morning, and we're going to cooperate 100% with the subpoena.
And most of you who were involved up here, you gaslighted me. You tried to say I was crazy. And now we know that that's not true. And there's a lot of other issues I've been asking about as well.
A big day in news, huh? Wow. I want to touch on it a little bit, but tonight I'm going to show you video proof that that James Finch, the developer, did not and could not have told Michael White, the former city manager for Lynn Haven, as charged by the feds and as their main proof, the main witness, that he said, that he needed Barnes's vote, that he was concerned about former city commissioner Antonius Barnes's vote in mid 2017 in order to get the financing for the 17th Street ditch. I mean, this is so, I don't even know what word to use. Like, if you were Sheriff Tommy Ford who pushed this, or the FBI, or the U.S. Attorney's Office, how could you possibly put a main witness, Michael White, on the stand to say something under oath, because his sentencing depends on what he says? So how do you put him under oath to testify and say that Finch did this when it's impossible according to the timeline? The financing had already been secured. Do you remember the giant press conference, August 19th of 2020, when U.S. Attorney Larry Keefe and Assistant U.S. Attorney Stephen Coons went up there along with Sheriff Ford, and they talked about how Lynn Haven Mayor Margo Anderson extended a loan that was that James Finch provided to the city for it was like $4.4 million or something at 2.55% when the interest rate, when the prime was 5.8. Do you remember that? They went up there and they said that she extended the loan for 30 years, which when you add up the amount the city would have to pay back in interest, would be like $1 million more for James Finch when he's over the age of 95 years old. They said that she did that. She did that. So there's two things I want to focus on tonight. That is, anybody who makes an argument, and I this is why I think Judge Mark Walker, who is considering the current motion, the Rule 29 renewed motion for acquittal, this is one of the main reasons I think Judge Walker is going to acquit James Finch himself, is because it is impossible what the main witness is saying. I'll prove it to you. I'll show you on video. All right, I'm going to show you on video. But also, what does it say about the prosecutors? They know they're putting them up there to lie. They know the jurors are going to be told the timeline. So the evidence is insufficient to get a conviction. Whether you do it, I mean, how many times do you have to rewrite the indictment? Well, for Mayor Anderson, the answer was 5 drafts. For James Finch, the answer is 4 drafts. And we're talking about things, of course, now that occurred before Hurricane Michael. More than $3 million flowed through Bay County. The feds, the FBI, Sheriff Ford and his public trust unit, they all know. The judge that was told by the FBI in 2021 in that search warrant affidavit that surfaced that named names and said Bay County was more corrupt than New Jersey and New Orleans, they know. So what gives? Well, things are starting to come into focus, and we're starting to understand why. But tonight I want to focus on those 2 things. I want to focus on why the witness can't possibly be telling the truth. And again, what does that say about the prosecutors who know this? And this is probably about the main reason I think Judge Walker is going to acquit James Finch with the open motion. Now, the prosecutors asked Judge Walker for more time. They needed more time to answer the Rule 29 renewed motion to acquit. And they deadline now is Wednesday. So by Wednesday, the prosecutors have to answer these kind of questions. And I don't know if the defendants get a chance to rebut that answer or not, but certainly in May, this coming month, Judge Walker is expected to rule on this. Now, if he rules to acquit James Finch, it's over. If he does not rule, if he denies the motion to acquit, then the trial is set for July. WJHG thinks it's set for, what did they say, May or something, next month. It's just, can somebody tell WJHG that it's July? But I do want to mention something that happened today that everybody's talking about, national story, because it happened to me in 2014. I just want to show you this. It is interesting, isn't it? Because one of the biggest problems, and it's a serious problem, it was a problem in Bay County in 2014 because I'm the OG. I'm the OG of cancel culture. Okay. Todd Neves and Arthur Cullen and William Harrison and all of them got together and said, you got to fire Bernie Thompson because he's endorsing Tho Bishop for state attorney. This was when I was on the radio. I had a Florida syndicated radio show. And do you know, the ratings were off the charts. It was really embarrassing because 3 days after I was fired August 1st of 2014. And that very next week, it was a Friday, the very next week, the ratings came out. And I was on the radio from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. on FM radio here in Bay County. And that's the exact same time on FM radio Rush Limbaugh was on. And do you know that my ratings doubled Rush Limbaugh's ratings? Is that amazing? And they usually were higher, and it's not because I was better than Rush Limbaugh. It's because if you were listening to Rush Limbaugh on the radio in Bay County, you're watching a spectacle far, far away. You're a spectator of something far away. But if you were listening to my show, we were together and we were talking about things that mattered. And they were making a difference. So just like now, other people, if you say things that are not approved by the very powerful, these things cannot be heard. They're too dangerous for democracy, especially in Bay County. But anyway, it reminds me so much of what happened to me. I just want to show you this. Yeah, here we go. So look at that. So when I posted this 4 hours ago, I didn't know if Tucker Carlson was fired or what happened. But he certainly on Friday thought he was going to be back on Monday. He said, I'll see you on Monday. But the latest information is that he was fired, and Rupert Murdoch, the founder and CEO of Fox News, made the decision, of course. And Tucker was not given any notice 10 minutes before the announcement was made. But let's see if I can. But here's what happened in 2014. Whoa, look at that. That is the billboard that went up around Bay County the week after I got fired, because they thought that I was, I guess, going to just go away. But who thinks that Tucker Carlson's voice has been eliminated from public discourse? It's almost like Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? You're really only going to make him stronger. The way to get people, if you don't like what Tucker Carlson says, if you think that Tucker Carlson is wrong, I'm trying to tell you something. The way to deal with that is to make the argument. But when you try to censor and cancel people, that does not win people over. You've heard it before. In history, censors are not the good guys. Oh, but Bernie, it's so dangerous. Yeah, okay. So is what we do then. And I guess it is dangerous. For the powerful manipulators, it's dangerous to hear for ideas to collide. But Bernie, some ideas are wrong. Yeah. Time is an appellate judge. So I need to do this. I've thought about doing this. I want to go back 2 or 3 years ago and find New York Times stories, because they're the authority, right? I want to go back and look at legacy media outlets, even ones here, and post what they said as fact, and post what they claimed was misinformation and disinformation, and then look 3 years later. Time is an appellate judge. The truth will have its day one way or another. People can get hurt, though. That's for sure. So to wind this little part up that I wanted to tell you about, I started to see, after Tucker Carlson, who was, by the way, the highest rated cable news talk host of all time, And I saw he had interviewed Donald Trump, and I saw he had interviewed Elon Musk, and he was talking about the Bud Light boycott, where you've got a guy pretending to be a little girl on social media. And Bud Light thought it was a good idea to pay that person a bunch of money to, I guess, market to little girls. And so there was a big backlash. The second marketing executive was put on leave today, by the way, the second one, but everything's fine. Everything's fine. But I saw last week, I believe, Senator Chuck Schumer with a bunch of people behind him at a big press conference talking about how Tucker Carlson needs to be removed. All right. There's a great Twilight Zone episode. If you want to listen, Twilight Zone is one of my favorite shows ever. And I believe 1960 was season 1. And there is an episode I so highly recommend. If you want to enrich your life, you will do this. Look up the Twilight Zone episode and watch it, called The Obsolete Man. The Obsolete Man. I'm going to have to, oh God, you know what? I think I need to play that and watch it with you one day. And it is a dystopian story about in the future. And it's got the old actor. What was Rocky's trainer's name? I'm going to look at your comments. Maybe one of you can tell me. Who's the actor? He was in a lot of the Twilight Zone episodes. Who was that actor that played Rocky's trainer? Somebody tell me. Oh, I just remembered. Burgess Meredith. So he was the star, and he was being brought up on charges that he was obsolete. I see you now, Sherry. That he was obsolete, and that his words were obsolete, and that he was dangerous. And my goodness, it feels like that in America today. But I saw Chuck Schumer saying that. And then I saw AOC. Then I saw AOC talking about how Tucker Carlson is inciting violence. And I said, oh, they want to indict him. And then I saw Ray Epps, the guy in the MAGA hat that was telling everybody to, storm the Capitol in all the videos, and he's the only one that's not on charges. He's out now. He's the darling of the fascist left. He's talking about how Tucker Carlson has targeted him and is trying to ruin his life. Yep. He gets death threats and so on and so forth. So I said, oh, there is a movement afoot to get rid of him, indict him, like they do to like they do to, oh, I don't know, like they did to the mayor of Lynn Haven in 2020. She was in the way of some very powerful people. Yeah. And then this happened. So anyway, I thought that was all. I'm looking at it now going, yeah, but we'll see will it have the result that the very powerful people want? Will it make those words that make them so uncomfortable go away, or will it strengthen them? I'm telling you, when you tell people you're not allowed to hear something, that doesn't win them over. All right, so enough of that. I didn't know I was going to go on with that long. I do want to show you the video, the proof. Let me show you this. So this is specifically what I'm talking about. Can you see this? I made this the other day. So you've got the prosecutor's main witness, former city manager Michael White. And he's telling the jury, it was a hung jury. He told the jury that Finch told me in mid-2017 that he needed Barnes's vote to finance the 17th Street ditch project. That's what he said. But James Finch says, look, the city commissioners voted unanimously to borrow my money way before that. Way before that. Well, prove it, Bernie. Prove it. Okay, I'm going to prove it to you. I'm going to show you video proof that could not be possible. That what Michael White is saying is not possible. Right after this.
When your life is on the line, hire the lawyer who lives in our community, works in our community, and worships in our community. I'm El Saulene, your Panama City Beach lawyer. 850-215-0628.
Don't let back pain and neck pain get you down. Find relief at Brown Chiropractic Center on St. Andrews Boulevard in Panama City. Dr. Sherry Brown helps people heal naturally with chiropractic adjustments and deep tissue massage. Call 769-3777. Okay, so Michael White tells the jury, the prosecutors bring him up to the witness stand, and the former city manager who is accused, charged, and pled guilty to defrauding the city of Lynn Haven of nearly $5 million after Hurricane Michael. And he says that he met with developer James Finch at Sheffield Park sometime, he's not sure when, but it was mid 2017. He took the job as city manager in July of 2017. Did you get that? July of 2017. So it had to be after that. after July of 2017 that Michael White says, under oath, that he met with James Finch at Sheffield Park, and Finch was concerned. He needed to get the financing for the 17th Street ditch. And in order to do that, the prosecutors say, he needed certainty. That's the word that they use. That's the word that they used with the jury. Finch needed certainty, and to get certainty, because he already had Mayor Anderson on his yacht and in his planes and in the RV that he gave her. He didn't have a yacht at the time. Kind of embarrassing to most people. Turns out the RV was actually paid for by her husband. The RV's back home. And the plane flights were paid for. It's unbelievable. But anyway, he needed Antonius Barnes' vote, a city commissioner. And that's what Michael White was telling the jury. Here's the problem. It had already been secured, and I'm going to show it to you. So that had to be after July 2017. Let's go 5 months prior to that. We're going to go to a Lynn Haven meeting, February 28, 2017. All right, February 28, 2017. This is after Lynn Haven had already made a deal with James Finch to borrow. It turned out to be 3.7 at this point in time, $3.7 million they're going to borrow from him. He's going to fix the project, the ditch, the big dangerous ditch. But they didn't, really have the money, and they didn't want to borrow at 5.8%. So Finch said, look, I'll loan you the damn money, 3.7 mil. And I'll even loan it to you less than half of the prime interest rate. So the city said, oh, hell yeah. And then later on, Joel Schubert, who was the city manager at the time, made a deal with the DOT. And he got the DOT to partner and pay for part of the 17th Street Ditch project. Okay. But they needed to add $668,000 to the $3.7 million that Finch had already loaned them and hadn't gotten paid a penny back for, because Finch said, don't pay me back until the project's completed, which happened later on in 2017. All right. So here's what you're going to see is Mayor Margo Anderson. There's Antonius Barnes. And right to her right, to our left, in the white shirt, is city manager Joel Schubert. And Joel Schubert is going to recommend to the commissioners that we add we borrow another $668,000 from James Finch. He's only charging us 2.2%. He's also going to recommend that we do it for 30 years. Okay, we can pay it back earlier if we want to, but let's do it over 30 years. Remember, at the press conference with Sheriff Ford and the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office, they said that Margo changed it to 30 years herself, so that Finch could rake in the last of that money when he's about 95, 96, 97, 98, something like that. Yeah, that's what they said. So let's see how it actually happens. Remember, they've already borrowed $3.7 million from Finch at this point, February 2017. Let's see how they added another $668,000. Who recommends it? Did Margo sneak this in, Mayor Anderson?
So the land sale is approved. Item number 14, discussion and possible action regarding piping the balance of the 17th Street ditch. Is there a staff report regarding this item?
Yes, Mayor.
This is City Manager Joel Schubert.
Okay, as most as a commission and most citizens know, we just finished, or Phoenix Construction just finished piping the east side of 17th Street ditch. There was approximately 3,300 feet there. It was a project that the city had been taking on incrementally, about 200 foot apiece a year annually. And rather than do that, the commission adopted a fix-it-now approach and got it done within the last year. we're going through some of the checklist.
Wait, what? The commission adopted a fix-it-now approach? Mayor Anderson and James Finch didn't just sneak it in there with a conspiracy with Antonius Barnes? The whole commission did.
Checklist items, some of the final checklist items, and the commission at that time also approved the financing and a promissory note to pay for that.
Say what?
For 20 years at an interest rate of 2.55 with that contractor. At the same time, the contractor also offered us a very economic way to finish the west side as well.
Whoa.
Rather than making that decision back in August 2015, the commission advised me to go back and attempt to partner with DOT because DOT owned 900 feet on the west side of 17th Street ditch, and there's approximately 1,550 feet. So rather than make the decision and pipe both sides, the commission asked me to go partner with DOT. In the interim, DOT has agreed to pipe that 900 foot on the west side. So that is a successful partnership, and we're proud of that. In the meantime, that leaves a balance of 650 feet on the west side to complete the whole project. At the time, back in August of 2015, the contractor had offered to do that side, economies of scale, one mobilization, et cetera, for right at $1.6 million. It was $1,595,000. Because the majority of that is going to be done by DOT, that 900 foot, the 650 foot balance is approximately 42%. So he has prorated that, or that 42%, which amounts to about $668,000. So that decision, which rightly.
So here's where we're at. So Finch has already loaned the city $3.7 million at a great interest rate, and now the city needs another $668,000. And the question is, and the recommendation from the city manager, Joel Schubert, who James Finch says was by far the most competent city manager that Lynn Haven had ever. The recommendation by staff, the attorneys, and city manager Joel Schubert is, let's do this. It's the Bank of James has given us a great deal here.
Rightly so, the commission deferred about a year and a half ago, and now we only have to deal with 42% of it is now again in front of the commission for consideration at a substantial cost savings, I might add. The only other thing I would add, if the commission does decide to go ahead and finish this ditch, I would also, two things. One, to expedite, I would ask for the change order to be part of the motion if it is decided to do that, so that we can expedite that and not have to bring it back to the commission. So
what he's saying is, y'all have already approved the 3.7 million. The change order would say, all right, let's just add the other 600. Let's borrow another 668,000 from the Bank of James Finch at this great economical rate. This is being recommended by city manager Joel Schubert, who, by the way, the prosecutors put on the witness stand in the trial against James Finch. But he said to the jury, James Finch never bribed me either, never offered me money. It was my recommendation, and the entire commission voted on it.
So the mayor, city manager can sign that change order, and there would also necessarily be a $35,000 engineering task order as well. And again, I would say that $35,000, the share should be, it was originally $100,000 as far as that task order, which would amount to $42,000, the 42%, but that has been discounted down to $35,000. So two things. One, the authority for the mayor and or the city manager to sign both the engineering task order and then also the change order to finish the ditch. And then two, while the commission approved again to do a promissory note for the east side for $3.72 million, I would also petition, if the commission decides on the west side to add this $668,000 to that promissory note, which we can do. I've talked to the city engineer about, and the contractor has also offered a 25-year term as well as a 30-year term. And just for perspective, the debt service that we have on the east side already is going to be approximately $239,000 annually. I would add that that's less than what we were paying for the incremental approach. It's done now. If we were to do the whole thing, if the commission decides to do the whole thing and we went to 25 years, that payment would stay the same. It would still be $239 a year. If the commission decided on the 30 years, it would be $211,000 annually in debt service. So I'd be happy to answer questions. I know that was a lot of numbers and a lot of verbiage, but I'd be happy to answer any questions about it.
Thank you for that report. Is there a motion from the board that we would take action on that this evening?
That's Mayor
Mayor, I
Anderson.
move that we approve this project with the information that the city manager has included. You said the 25-year, Mr. Schubert, was the same 239?
The 25 years would give the same debt service as we currently have for. I would recommend, the 30 years, because as part of this promissory note, we also have the ability to pay it off early with no penalty. So.
Okay, did you hear that? So that's Commissioner Antonius Barnes 6 months before, at least 6 months before City Manager Michael White ever could have possibly met with James Finch at Sheffield Park. This is all happening far before. So there's no possible way that James Finch was talking with Michael White 6 months later about how bad he needed Antonius Barnes's vote, that he was going to write a $5,000 check as a business loan that went into Antonius Barnes's business bank account. Why did Sheriff Tommy Ford and the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office, why do they continue to press this obvious lie? You just heard City Manager Joel Schubert recommend 30 years. But at the press conference in August of 2021, they said that she extended that. Margo Anderson, Mayor Anderson, extended it 30 years so James Finch could make another $1 million or two off the city. This is insane, right?
So, that leaves our options open.
Right. Well, including that in, given that information, right, because I was thinking about paying it off early as well. So.
Is there a second to Commissioner Barnes's motion?
I'll second that.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or further questions from the board regarding this?
Yes, Mayor, I do.
Commissioner Friend?
Mr. Schubert, if you would then just clarify for me then, because we got we're doing the additional 650. We have a physical impact of 668. We're going to finance it, tap it to what we've already financed. We're going to extend it to 30, which is going to keep the debt the same.
From the Bank of James.
The change order, did I miss something there? Are we going to add to the 668?
The change order would be the 668 to the original contract on the east side.
That is the change order, then.
Yes.
That's what I missed. I apologize.
35 for the engineering.
Great. Which includes the engineering.
No, that's
okay.
Yeah, and
I missed that somewhere.
That should actually be 668 as far as the change order and 35,000 in an additional task order for the engineering.
Okay, thank you.
Are there further questions from the board?
I had one question, and I'm going to presume with engineers and contractors, they're bigger minds than mine. We're going to come to a point where this all splices in a couple of years to 390. Is there a point where it does so smoothly, where we don't have to tear up 100 feet of what we installed this year, 2 years from now, when the 6-lane highway comes by? I'm getting a nod from the engineer, so I'll take that as a yes. Okay.
Chris Forehand, would you like to come forward and address that question? Thank you.
So this is
I
the
can
city
address it.
contracted
That's-
engineer.
Well, he was actually,
Oh,
he was asking for the engineer's opinion, so I think that's what I would like
Sure,
to, I'd like to hear the engineer's
I'll be
opinion as
happy
well.
to. I'm Chris Forehand with Panhandle Engineering. We have looked at the 390 widening plans, and they do have a double barrel box culvert that comes across 390. And we've looked at where that ends, and we will tie into that box culvert. So yes, we have looked at that.
Look too far and then have to back up.
Correct.
Back out.
And then we'll tie in on the other end to where DOT leaves off on their 900 feet.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you.
Now, for some reason, the city contracted engineer, Chris Forehand with Panhandle Engineering, has full immunity. He's never been, he's been mentioned in the indictments, but he's never been charged. But despite never being charged, he has full immunity. And there's a lot of stories regarding the city contracted engineer, but I'm going to keep playing this.
Are there any other questions from the board? Concerns? Yes.
Mayor, I just have one clarification on the motion. The second part, as far as the note, that is to go to up to 30 years at the same interest rate as our current note.
Yes.
Okay.
That was my understanding, and then the payment is changed to 211 instead of, yeah. Are there any questions from the public or concerns? Okay, Mr. Schubert, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Barnes,
Aye.
Commissioner Ashbrook,
Yes.
Commissioner Shad,
Aye.
Commissioner Friend,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes. And I am delighted with that action because that will take care of the rest of that ravine that passes through Lynn Haven once and for all. So I'm very excited about it.
All right. Did it look like Mayor Anderson snuck a 30-year, extended the loan so that James Finch could get richer? Did it look like James Finch needed to bribe Antonius Barnes, or was it recommended by the city manager and before that by the city attorney and all the staff, everybody? And this, remember, was 6 months before, at the least 6 months before, because Michael White, who came in later as the city manager, he doesn't remember when he met with James Finch at Sheffield Park, but he does remember that Finch needed the financing for the 17th Street ditch, which had already been done long before. And the prosecutors want to put that narrative back in front of a jury. The judge right now, the federal judge, Mark Walker, is looking at this now that he has seen the whole trial, gave a jury a crack at it. They came back, hung on both the conspiracy and the $5,000 check that was the bribe itself. I mean, how is nobody embarrassed about this? I mean, honest to God, if I was the FBI or the prosecutors or Sheriff Tommy Ford or Major Jimmy Stanford, I would be so embarrassed about all of this. No compunction, no embarrassment, no shame. What is really going on here? Lynn Haven had the most popular mayor in Bay County history ripped from office, charged with 64 counts of public corruption, all which were dropped. All of it, every one of them. What in the world is going on around here? That's amazing. Is that not amazing? Bernie, you're just defending Finch. I thought you were against public corruption. Yeah, right. You know, I went and I looked at everything I can, and I'm telling you everything that I see. This is not about defending anybody. This is about telling you the truth about this case. The WMBB is lying to you about, the WJHG is confused about, and God knows what the USA Today News Herald is thinking. I think they're just ignoring it. If I tell you, I'll show you. And I'll tell you the truth about these things.
You want to look good? You want to feel good? Little John's Big and Tall is where it's at. Right across the street from Sky's Pizza Pie, 5700 North Davis Highway. You can find out more online at littlejohnsbigandtall.com. He's also a member of the iTex trading community, where your iTex dollars are welcome.
It's a hot time in Florida, and my friend Ryan could make sure your air conditioning is running at peak efficiency. He could even install a new one, built to a higher standard, American standard. Find out more at pcairrepair.com.
And the reason I can tell you the truth is because, like Tucker Carlson now, I don't work for Talk Radio 101 anymore. They threw me out. I don't work for these news stations anymore. Or I never did. But I would never, ever, ever look you in the eye and tell you the lies that they tell you. This is destroying everything we have in this country. Truth. What matters more than truth when it comes to public trust? What is happening in Bay County is a microcosm of what's happening in our country. And when we look around and we say, oh, but Bernie, it's the liberals, it's the Democrats, we're a strong red Republican county. Then why the hell is this happening? Because corruption doesn't have a color. And I think a lot of local officials believe that this country's in big trouble and they're going to take all they can while they can. I don't even sleep well. I can't even rest because I'm so worried about what's going on locally and in the country. When the law is being used like this to attack people, to protect other people, where are all the good people at? If you would like to support my efforts to continue to do this, here's one way you can do it. You can become a patron at patreon.com/Bernie Thompson. It's kind of like giving a tip every month. It's easy. It's anonymous. And you can quit at any time. That's one way. Also, I want to thank those of you brave enough to sponsor the show, and the Unknown Patriot for sponsoring the show so that I can continue to tell you what I see as best I can. All right. I think that pretty much proves that the main witness against James Finch and Mayor Anderson is what you would call a bad witness. And how in the hell does the prosecution put somebody on the witness stand when they know damn well that it's a lie? It's illegal for them to do that. And I would again appeal to U.S. Attorney Jason Cootie. USA Cootie, now that you've seen this stuff, like, I know that you can't keep, you're right now prosecuting Andrew Gillum. You've got a lot of stuff going on, and you rely on the people under you. But at some point, you see what you see. And I know that I'm telling the truth. I know that USA Cootie knows I'm telling the truth. There's no shame in saying we're done with this. Let's go after the real bad guys now. But there is shame in continuing this when you know it can't possibly be true. And I've heard too many good things about you. And I remember you patting me on the shoulder and telling me I was doing a good job, and you loved the shows in November of 2019. I hope you're still watching them. And I hope you're going to get the people who interfere with our elections and who rob us blind here. You have the power to do that, the authority to do that. That's what God put you here to do. And that's what we need you to do.